On March 1st, 1516, the first published Greek New Testament to be put on a printing press came out. It was done by Erasmus from the Netherlands. Now, what's significant about this is that in his very first edition, at 1 John chapter 5, verse 7, it did not have the famous Trinitarian formula that we find in the King James Bible, where it says there are three who bear witness in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Spirit, and these three are one. Well, the reason it didn't have it is because Erasmus didn't have any Greek manuscripts that actually had that. By the time he published his second edition in 1519, the Roman Catholic Church got upset. And they said, Erasmus, you need to put that Trinitarian formula, technically known as the Comma Johanneum, or the Johannine comma, the Johannine parenthesis, you need to put that in the text. And he said, I didn't put it in because I couldn't find it in any manuscripts. Well, in the year 1520, some scribe by the name of Roy, or perhaps Froy, working at Oxford University, actually made a manuscript to order. It had the entire New Testament in it, and sure enough, it had the Comma Johanneum, or the Trinitarian formula, in it at 1 John 5:7. It somehow came to Erasmus's attention, and he decides, okay, I'm going to put this into my third edition, which came out in 1522. Now here's the interesting thing. That text is what stands behind the King James Bible, which was produced in 1611. And for 270 years, until the year 1881, there was no major translation of the Bible done in English at all, except for the King James Bible. Then the revised version of 1881 came out, and it did not have the Trinitarian formula at 1 John 5:7. This has become a battle cry for a lot of King James advocates, and they say, we need to have this Trinitarian formula in here. It surely goes back to the original text. How could you possibly take it out? You're mutilating the Word of God, those kinds of arguments. Of all the thousands of manuscripts that we have of the New Testament, there are only 8 that have the Comma Johanneum in them. At least there were only 8 until this last week. Now, the Comma Johanneum is found in 4 manuscripts that are dated from the 14th century or later, all the way up to the 18th century. And it's found in the margins as an additional note in other manuscripts. Again, all those marginal notes are very late, 16th century or later. There's another manuscript that was discovered last week when we were here in Munich at the Bayerische Staatsbibliothek, or the Bavarian State Library. And it's manuscript Gregory Allen number 177. It's a manuscript that has been known for many, many years, many decades, even centuries, and yet this passage had been overlooked. It's a manuscript from the 11th century, but this particular wording of the Comma Johanneum, the Trinitarian formula, was added in a marginal note many centuries later. How do we know this? Well, you can tell by the handwriting. That's one of the ways. But another way you can tell is because it introduces the whole thing by saying, in Latin, verse 7. Well, verse 7 means that it had to have been put in there sometime after verse numbers were invented. Verse numbers were not used in any Bibles until the year 1551, which therefore must mean that this little marginal note could not have been invented until the second half of the 16th century, long after Erasmus's text had been produced. But it is now a 9th manuscript that has this wording, and that in itself is significant. The very fact that here's a manuscript that has been known about for so many years, and yet people have not examined that one page to see what it said, tells us that there may well be lots and lots of treasures among our New Testament manuscripts that we just don't know about, simply because we haven't had access to them, we've had poor microfilms that we've had to use, or we simply don't have good digital photographs. And that's one of the reasons for the existence of the Center for the Study of New Testament Manuscripts, to give us good digital photographs of all our Greek New Testament manuscripts.